So let's take a closer look at what we just achieved, especially around the text we printed to the screen. We're going to learn about two new topics, strings and variables. In Java, by placing letters or characters in double quotes, we create what is known as a string. A handy way to visualize strings is by picturing a banner that you might hang at a party that is stringing together individual characters. Strings are how we deal with text, and you will encounter them quite a bit in your programming adventures. In fact, since strings are so common, they're one of the basic data types that Java offers. A variable is a way to store data into a named location that you can use to reference later. In Java, you must specify what data type you are planning on storing, so that it knows how to store that information. String is one of those types, and we'll discover more data types as this course progresses, when you need them. If you just can't wait, I've also added a link in the teacher's notes. Let's go back to our workspace and let's learn how to use a string variable.
All right, so let's say I asked you to write out another line to the screen that said, Craig is learning how to write Java. It looks something like this. We'd say console.printf, Craig is learning how to write Java. And then we'd in the double quotes, in the parentheses, and a semicolon. Now, let's save that. Let's go ahead and compile. And once again, we do javac introductions.java. That creates our class file, and we say Java introductions. Well, that output looks a little bit ugly. It could definitely be prettied up by putting that information on different lines, but how are we going to do that? Now, obviously, if I press enter in the line like this, it's going to probably break the program. So what we have is there's a new thing I'm going to introduce called an escape sequence, and I'm going to say \n, and that is the new line escape sequence. I'm going to put that at the end of both of our lines. And escape sequences are used to write characters that are not easily printable or may break the syntax or the structure of our code. So let's go down here and let's clear the screen. And you can do that by typing clear, and we'll clear our terminal. See, it's reset back now. And let's go ahead and let's compile. Now I want to show you another little terminal trick here. If you press the up arrow, it's going to go through the history of what you've typed. So let's get back to where we said javac introductions.java. We'll run that. Oh, look, I forgot to save. So if you come up and you press save, well, again, let's go up the arrow, introductions, and let's run it. There we go. That is much better looking. And aside from talking in third-person Tarzan speak, this is looking much better. All right, so let's assume we wanted to make this program about someone else. Now, one way to handle that would be to change every string that contained your name. But imagine that our program got much longer and the name Craig is in hundreds of thousands of places in the code. We wouldn't want to have to change that name everywhere and keep changing it everywhere. So a better way to handle this is to store that information in what is known as a variable. So the way that you declare a variable is first by defining its type. And since we know we want to have a string variable, say string, and next we want to give it a name that we can reference on the code later. The better we name our variables, the more likely someone reading our code will be able to understand its purpose. So in that case, let's name our variable first name. And then we do an equal sign, and then double quotes, and your name, and then of course a semicolon to mark that this statement is over. This reads as assign Craig to the variable first name of data type string. In Java, while not required, the standard for naming variables is to use what is known as camel case. The first letter is lowercase, and then each new word starts with a capital letter, like this. This is an example of camel casing. Earlier, when I introduced you to the printf method on the console object, I said that it was for printing text. But to be more accurate, it actually prints formatted text. That's what the F stands for. This lets us be more creative with our text, using variables and other special formatting instructions. It turns out that printf takes multiple options, or parameters. The first parameter that is passed to the printf function is what is known as the format string. When using methods, you can add additional parameters by separating them with a comma. Those additional parameters are used to replace the format specifiers that are in the format string. Let me show you what I mean. First, I'll replace Craig with the format specifier %s, where S stands for string. And then after the first parameter here, I'm going to insert a comma, and then I'm going to put in our first name variable. Let's do the same for the second sentence. So we'll replace the Craig with %s, and we'll get to the end of the line here, and we'll put a comma, and the second parameter or argument is first name. Okay, so let's save that. Let's do a clear. We'll use the up arrow to get back to our Java C introduction. So we'll compile the program. We'll run the program. Oh, great, it still works. Okay, now let's change the value of our first name variable to a friend of yours. I'll change mine to a fellow teacher's name, Ben. Then I'll save the file and we'll do clear. We'll run Java C, and then we'll run Java. And we'll see that it only changed in one place, but we updated both lines.
Great job using strings and variables, and formatters even for that matter. So we learned when you create or declare a variable, you first use its data type. In this case, we use the data type string. And then we assigned with the equals sign and set the first name variable to the string Craig. We created that string by surrounding it in double quotes. And of course, we end our statement with a semicolon. So that is the syntax, or structural rules, for creating a variable. One thing of note here is that Java is case sensitive, which means the case. Is it uppercase or is it lowercase? It makes a difference. Now let's do an exercise and make sure all this new information is sticking.